Why is it that we dread turning that last page? Hey Book Dragons, I'm so glad that you're here with me today. I wanted to think a little bit about why it is that we have such a hard time turning the last page of a book or the last page of a book in a series in particular. I know at least I have a hard time turning that last page, and some people avoid reading the last book in a series altogether because they're just not ready for it to end. And I wanted to explore why that is. And this is very personal for me. I've had this happen with several books. The one I'm currently thinking about and dreading is Assassin's Fate by Robin Hobb. Now, I have not finished Fool's Quest yet, but we're getting close. So Assassin's Fate is right around the corner, and it's very bittersweet for me. I want to see how it ends. I want to see what Robin Hobb does with it. And I know there's a potential for more books in the series later on. But this is coming to the end of a very long saga, reading The Realm of the Elderlings, having discussions about it with my friend Danielle over at BookTubers, and just experiencing the lives of all the characters in these books. And part of me doesn't want it to end. Part of me doesn't want to read that last book or turn that last page, because then that will definitely mean the end. And I don't know if I'm ready for that. So we're going to talk today about some of the reasons that that happens. So if you have snacks or drinks you would like to consume, please feel free to pause the video, grab those snacks, and come back and talk with me. And if you have come back, let's get right to this topic. So the first reason I want to talk about is attachment and grieving. You know, we get so attached to the characters, we experience them much the same as the way we experience people in real life, and we feel attached to their relationships and all the things that they have experienced in their life. And so when a series ends, it gives us a sense of grief, a sense of loss, a sense of missing those characters and wishing we could be back in that world. Now, thankfully for series like The Realm of the Elderlings, you can always read it again, or there's other new worlds that you can get into as well, new book series to pick up, but there's just something special about books that mean so much to you. I know for me, Fitz and the Fool have really impacted my life in so many ways. And I'm going to grieve the loss of those connections. Even though they're fictional, they mean a lot to me. And so one of the things that I'm especially dreading, speaking of grieving, is the title of this book portends a not so good ending for one of my favorite characters. And it worries me. I could be totally overthinking it. It may not mean what I think it means. And don't tell me in the comments, please, what it means. I want to finish it and find out for myself, but there is that sense of grief over what might be, you know, based on the title of a book even. Assassin's Fate kind of sounds like the assassin might meet his fate. Now, whatever that fate is, I won't know until I get to the end of the book. So that is one of the reasons. We get so attached to the characters, and there's a sense of grief that goes along with that. All right, so the next one here is the comfort of the unknown. As long as you haven't finished a book, all the possibilities are there for what might happen. If you're worried about your favorite character dying, which happens often in certain series in particular, like A Song of Ice and Fire, if you're worried about your favorite character dying and you don't finish the book, you'll never know. You know, you will never have to experience that grief. You will never have to experience that loss. And so that's kind of a comfort. And so this goes along with the first reason that I talked about, in the sense that we find comfort in what we don't know. And I think that's true of life in general. The unknown is anxiety-inducing, but it's also comforting in a weird way. And so that's another reason that we sometimes avoid turning that last page. The next reason I want to talk about is the loss of safety in that escape that we experience when we read a book. If it's a really immersive book and we've really been immersed in the world and the character relationships, we start to feel safe in those, because the real world is not safe most of the time. Sometimes it is. The people in our lives are safe, oftentimes, hopefully. But there's an escape that we get when we're reading a really good fiction book and you're just turning page after page and just completely immersed in the world. And if you don't finish the book, you don't have to give up that escape. You don't have to go back to reality, as it were. And that gives a sense of comfort. Because if we finish a series or finish a book we're reading and it's over and we have to go back to the real world, then we have to find a new escape, which there's a plethora of good escape books, right? Just escape into the next story. But if a series has been truly meaningful to you, that's hard to let go of. And you start judging other escape-worthy books by that previous experience with that book. There's so many things that go into this, but that is a huge reason why I struggle to turn that last page. It's because it's been a deep and emotional sense of escape and safety for me. And so I really am having a hard time thinking about the fact that this series is going to end. And I hope Robin Hobb does write more books in the series, because there's another character that I would like to follow from here on out. But there's a special quality about Robin Hobb's books and the way she writes her stories that just completely draws me in and makes me feel part of that world and feel part of the character relationships that are happening, and I can let go of the real world for a while. So that's a big one, for me personally especially. And then the last one on here that I want to talk about is the sunk cost discussion. And what this refers to is the fact that we have invested so much time and sometimes money in getting into a particular book series, and then when you turn that last page, you have to abandon that long investment that you put into a series. And also you worry about that ending, right? Because if the ending isn't what you thought it would be, if it's a really lackluster ending after you've spent so much time being involved in this story and learning about the characters and being part of their world, if the ending doesn't land, there is a certain sense of waste. Did I waste all of that time reading these books only to get a lackluster ending? And this isn't as big of a one for me, because for me, it's all about the journey. I love being in these characters' lives, and as long as the ending isn't horrible, I'm probably going to be okay with it, because the journey has been worth it. But I know for a lot of people, they invest so much time in a series, and then if the ending isn't what they wanted, or the ending doesn't come, like one particular book series we can think about, George R. R. Martin, if the ending doesn't come, you get the feeling that you've wasted your time. And like I said, I don't really do this very often. There are certain books that I've gotten to the end of and I wished I had not finished the book. So that is a reality. There have been a few books like that where I invested the time and it just wasn't worth it. But most of the time, I enjoy the time investment, and I'm along for the journey, loving every minute of it. And for me, it's more of having to let go of all that time I put into it after a series is over. And it's kind of a book hangover of sorts, because you get to that ending, to that last page, and hopefully you're like, wow, what an ending. And now there's a sense of sorrow and grief and hangover, because now what do I do with my time? After I've spent so much time in this series, where do I go now? But the flip side to that, the negative side to that is, what if you spent so much time in a book and it wasn't worth it, and you hate the fact that you read it in the first place? So there are two sides to that last one, and I think both are valid. It depends on the reader. Neither one is necessarily wrong or a faulty way of thinking. It just is. That's what happens when we spend so much time in a world. And I have every faith in Robin Hobb that she's going to be able to pull off this ending. I've heard some people who don't like the ending of it, even though I haven't listened to what the ending is, obviously. But I've heard some people say that they didn't necessarily care for the ending of the series, and I don't know, I'm totally along for the ride. I trust Robin Hobb implicitly, explicitly, all of those things, but I do have a sense of grief, impending grief, and impending loss at the thought of finishing this amazing book series. And this was not a video intended to just promote The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. I just wanted to use it as an example, but I do highly recommend the series as well. Just know that you are going to be deeply invested in buying Kleenex as well, because there are so many tear-jerking moments, both happy and sad, in this series. And I worry about turning that last page. I kind of dread it. But I also want to, because I want to see how the series ends. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. That is all the thoughts that I have on this subject of what it means to turn that last page and why we dread it so much. Let me know in the comments below some of your thoughts on this subject. Let me know if you read this series or if you read other series and what that experience has been like for you turning that last page. Let me know in the comments below. I would love to dialogue with you. If you would like to see more of my content, please check out the end screen here. There's a couple of options for you. And until next time, make sure you read more books. I'll talk with you soon.